Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Zero's special Giving Tuesday coverage. Zero recently launched the Zero COVID-19 Patient Support Fund to help prostate cancer patients in their fight against prostate cancer, especially right now in the midst of a lot of folks needing some extra assistance, with unemployment, financial resources, and things of that nature. And we're talking today with Rick Pollak from Westford, Massachusetts, who we've had a great phone relationship, haven't we,
Yes,
Rick?
we
But
have.
this is the first time we're actually seeing each other. It's very nice to meet you in person. How are you doing today?
Great, and great to see you, Shawn, instead of on the phone, but seeing you instead.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. Rick, you have already made a donation to Zero's COVID-19 Patient Support Fund. What inspired you to want to do that?
Well, when I heard about the fund, and Shawn, you had called me just to check in and mentioned the fund had started. And one thing that my wife and I do is we typically give our contributions to charities at the end of the year, usually around December. And since Giving Tuesday started a few years ago, then around the end of November. But we would look at charities and say, well, who needs the money earlier than December? And what impact will it have? How will it help people? And when you talked about the COVID-19 fund, what crossed my mind is all the people in March and April who lost their jobs and then lost their health, and thinking of prostate cancer and how early detection and early treatment can really help. That of giving money now to the COVID-19 fund is going to help people to have access to Zero programs like Zero 360, Zero Connect, the Zero Mentor program, and not waiting until the end of the year, but helping people now in May on this early Giving Tuesday and having a lot more impact. So that's when I heard about that, I said, we're not going to wait. We're going to give to the fund now.
Wonderful. So you really put some thought into your charitable giving and when and how to go about doing that. And, so thank you, Rick, for being one of our first donors to the Patient Support Fund. We are unfortunately hearing from men who are saying, I can choose between feeding my family, paying the utility bills, or continuing with my prostate cancer care. And that's a decision that we never want anybody to make. So, thank you for being one of the supporters who supported this emergency fund. But you know what? You've been a longtime supporter of Zero's. In fact, according to my records, for more than 15 years, you've been a donor of Zero. And so tell me, how did you first get connected with us? How did that whole thing begin with a relationship? Because I've only been with Zero for a few years, so
Right.
I can't take all the credit.
Yeah, I will tell you, back in 2005, and I think your organization was called the National Prostate Cancer Coalition then. But within 1 year, in that year, 2005, 5 of my friends, all men in their 50s, were diagnosed with prostate cancer. And it just seemed that cluster, and looking at that at the end of the year, when we said, well, what charity supports prostate cancer? How can we help? And that's how we found the Prostate Cancer Coalition. And once you became Zero, we've been giving money ever since, because we know how important it is to have funding for early detection, treatment, and helping men, supporting them with prostate cancer.
Yep, it's true. We were formed in 1996 by a group of doctors, mainly to be an advocacy organization, to go to Capitol Hill and speak with our government representatives about the importance of funding prostate cancer research, about the importance of screenings and early detection. Of course, over the last 25 or so years, we've evolved, and so the name has kind of evolved with us. Zero, the end of prostate cancer. I always like to say our mission is right there in our name. So you know exactly what it is that we're up to and what we're doing. And of course, advocacy is still a huge part of who Zero is and what we do today. But beyond that, we also have these wonderful patient support programs, many of them that you've already mentioned, like Zero Connect, which is, you know, quite timely right now, actually, with a lot of folks not being able to go to in-person support groups.
Right.
We've got the support group available on Facebook, and that's a great resource to go and could be, you know, patients, survivors, family members, caregivers. They can go to that site there and post questions, offer support to other people. Just in general, know that they're not alone, right? I think is really important. You mentioned Zero Mentor Program, where we partner men who are survivors up with men who are maybe newly diagnosed or possibly having a recurrence, and maybe the support group setting is not their scene. They're a little bit more stoic or private, maybe is the way to say it, and they prefer to just talk one-on-one with somebody who's been through it. And just recently, we also launched our Caregiver Connect program, and that is a similar program to the Mentor, only it's for caregivers, because we recognize that, you know, that the men who are in the fight are not doing this by themselves. Oftentimes there are loved ones who are helping to take care of them, and they're putting up their own fight against the prostate cancer and could use some support there as well. So having had a number of friends who have battled prostate cancer, what do you think were their biggest hurdles?
Well, this was back in 2005. And really, YouTube was just in its infancy. Facebook was in its infancy. And they really relied on the recommendations of their urologists and doctors. And I think probably emotionally was feeling that they were alone. And I think what you said is one of the Zero missions now is to make sure men with prostate cancer don't feel like they're alone. And I think they managed, all 5 of them did very well. They were fortunate as they had early detection, and living in the greater Boston area, they had access to good medical care, and they all had jobs with good health insurance. So they were all fortunately in a case where they were able to get early treatment and you know, win their battle with prostate cancer. And I think just one thing now is people who don't have that access to medical care, or who've lost their jobs and lost their insurance, now more than ever, they need the help that Zero is offering with the support for treatment, and especially having that emotional support. I think that's something that really wasn't available 15 years ago. Even when people could leave and go to the doctor's office or go to in-person groups, having that available online and having that support network, I think, is really critical to help people understand what the disease is, that there's over a 99% survival rate with early detection. And just knowing that and talking to other people, I think is invaluable to people now who are just newly diagnosed.
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking it's really kind of remarkable. 5 of your friends, you know, diagnosed 15 years ago. It sounds like they're all doing well today.
Everyone's doing great.
They beat the disease. And here's what's so remarkable about that, Rick. One, you know, 15 years ago, there were really limited treatment choices for folks who were diagnosed with prostate cancer. Certainly the advancements in research have produced many, many, many more treatment options for us. And also, you know, while the PSA blood test isn't a end all be all in diagnosing prostate cancer, it can be an indicator for us. And, you know, 15 years ago, maybe docs were doing that, maybe they weren't, so probably a lot less awareness about it then. I certainly know that there were a lot less men talking about the disease. The fact that you even knew that your friends had been diagnosed with prostate cancer is really remarkable, let alone 5 of your friends, because you know, when I first joined Zero a few years back, I had come from the breast cancer movement, and the folks would say to me, the fellows would say to me, how come we're so far behind breast cancer? Everybody knows about breast cancer. Every October, the world turns pink, and, you know, sport players are wearing their pink shoes, and I said, yeah, you know, the fellas just didn't talk about it 15 years ago. It just took a little while longer for them to feel comfortable coming out and sharing their stories. And of course, now today, we have men who are proudly talking about their fight against prostate cancer and that they've won, and turning that conversation around with their families. They're not talking about it with their children and their grandchildren, so that those, you know, those generations can certainly, you know, take advantage of the research and the early detection resources that we have now, hopefully saving more lives and getting us closer to Generation Zero. So that whole story is just remarkable to me, Rick. 15 years ago, 5 friends, and they're all doing great.
Yeah, and fortunately that they all had yearly physical exams, and they all had PSA checks and the DREs, and they knew very quickly what it is. But as many people know, it's hard to get men to go to the doctor. A lot of say, oh no, I don't think, I'm fine, I don't need to go to the doctor. And there's never really been a good excuse, but now there are 2 good excuses of not going to the doctor. One is people are afraid they'll catch COVID-19. And 2, the doctor's probably not in the office. The doctor's doing telemedicine and that. So I think now more than ever, the awareness has to come up, and with telemedicine and people still knowing that just because you can't go to the doctor, or that you have an excuse now not to go out of the house to go to the doctor, there's still treatment available. There's still support available.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think I sent you the link to our telemedicine video series, which is an available resource for our viewers here on Giving Tuesday. If you'd like to, you can go to zerocancer.org, and you can find that link under the Learn section, I believe, on the telemedicine, since that is something we're encountering more and more of. We also just had a gentleman who was interviewed recently by Colony on our team, Bryce Olson. He's fighting advanced prostate cancer, and he's having his blood drawn on the front porch of his house so that he can continue on with his treatment at the same time as maintaining social distancing. So unique environment that we're in here for sure with this COVID-19 crisis. And it's unprecedented times for prostate cancer patients and their families, and they need us now more than ever. So we're really happy to be here on Giving Tuesday with the goal of raising $25,000 towards the COVID-19 patient support program. And that, of course, is being, those donations are being matched up to $100,000. So Rick, you were one of our first donors to that. What would you say to somebody who's watching us right now on Giving Tuesday and maybe considering making a donation? What would you like to say to them?
Well, I think, Shawn, you've talked about all the benefits of the fund. So what I would say for someone who has been giving to Zero towards the end of the year, I would urge you to give now in May for this Giving Tuesday. That money is going to go immediately to help the people who have prostate cancer, early diagnosis, who have lost health insurance or don't have the funds, or Shawn, you mentioned before about saying, should I pay for my treatment or should I pay the utility bill? So I think that's going to help people immediately. And also, and one of the tests on Giving Tuesday is there going to be a match? And yes, there's a match on this fund. So your contribution is going to be doubled, and it's going to go immediately to people who need it. So I can give you 2 good reasons to give today. And I think really there are 0 reasons not to give to Zero today.
Well, Rick, thank you for that. I certainly appreciate it. And Giving Tuesday now, that's what we're talking about here. It's a bonus Giving Tuesday by the organizers of that movement. They recognize that, that there are a lot of nonprofits out there that can use the support, because there are many of our citizens who rely on the nonprofit organizations for help in certain circumstances like these, where we're helping out the fellows who are fighting prostate cancer. So thanks for tuning in with us here on Giving Tuesday. All my best to you and your family.
Thanks. Thank you, Shawn.
You bet.